The security footage played on my laptop screen for the fourth time, and each viewing made my blood boil hotter. There was my cousin Colby, clear as day, jimmying open the back door of my boutique at 2:47 a.m. I'd recognize that signature slouch anywhere, even with the hood pulled up. My name is Daphne, and I've spent the last 6 years building velvet and lace from nothing into one of the most successful boutiques in our city. Now I sat in my ransacked office, surrounded by empty display cases where my most expensive pieces had been. "Ma'am, we'll need you to sign here." The police officer handed me a form, his pen hovering over the spot where I needed to press charges. "Are you absolutely certain about this? Family matters can be complicated." I grabbed the pen. Family doesn't steal $50,000 worth of merchandise from family. My phone buzzed again. The seventh call from my mother in the past hour. I silenced it without looking. "The security company called me at 4 a.m., I told the officer, signing my name with sharp, angry strokes. I thought it was a false alarm until I saw the back door hanging open. Then I found this. I handed him the note I'd discovered pinned to my office door. "Sorry, cuz. Desperate times. I'll make it right someday." See, the officer bagged it as evidence, while his partner photographed the empty cases. My pride and joy, vintage Cartier pieces, limited edition handbags, and custom jewelry, all gone. "Daphne," my sister Lexi burst through the front door, still in her pajamas. "Mom's freaking out. Tell me you haven't pressed charges yet." Too late. I crossed my arms. "And don't start with the buddy's family speech. You don't understand what you're doing." Lexi grabbed my arm. "Uncle Graham is livid. He's talking about cutting you off completely." I yanked free. "Cut me off from what? The family that's calling me a traitor for holding their precious Colby accountable?" My phone buzzed again, this time a text from my aunt. "How dare you do this to your own cousin, after everything we've done for you?" I laughed bitterly. Everything they've done for me? I built this place myself. Every penny, every late night, every sacrifice. That was all me. "Ma'am," the officer interrupted, "we've got enough for now. We'll be in touch once we locate your cousin." After they left, Lexi paced the shop floor while I began cataloging the missing items for insurance. "He's been struggling," she said softly, "ever since he lost his job." "Don't." I slammed my laptop shut. "Don't you dare make excuses for him. He didn't steal bread to feed his children. He took luxury items he can fence for quick cash, probably to pay off whatever mess he's gotten himself into this time." "You don't know that. I know exactly what I saw on that footage." I pulled it up again, pointing at the screen. "Look how he goes straight for the high-value cases. He knew exactly what he wanted. This wasn't desperation. It was calculated." My phone lit up with a text from Colby himself. "Please, cuz, don't do this. I can explain everything." "He's reaching out," Lexi said hopefully. "Maybe if you just talk to him." The time for talking was before he broke into my store. I deleted the message without responding. Actions have consequences. It's time this family learned that. "You'll regret this," Lexi warned, heading for the door. "When you're alone at the next family gathering, if you're even invited, you'll wish you'd handled this differently." Maybe. I stood amid the wreckage of my shop, my voice steady, but I'd regret letting him get away with it even more. After she left, I walked the silent aisles of my boutique, straightening items that had been knocked askew during the break-in. 6 years of work, of proving everyone wrong when they said I was crazy to open a high-end shop in this economy. 6 years of building something I could be proud of. My phone buzzed one final time. A message from Victoria, our family matriarch. "Come see me tomorrow. There are things you need to know." I stared at the message for a long moment before putting my phone away. Whatever Victoria had to say could wait. Right now, I had a store to put back together and a security system to upgrade. My family wanted to paint me as the villain? Fine. Sometimes justice was more important than keeping the peace. I looked at the empty cases one last time before locking up for the day. Colby had chosen his path. Now I was choosing mine. Victoria's house smelled like cinnamon and secrets. She poured tea from a delicate porcelain pot while I sat stiffly on her antique sofa, still angry from the morning's confrontation with Uncle Graham in my shop's parking lot. "You're making a terrible mistake," he'd shouted, face red with rage. "My boy made one bad choice. One. And you're ready to ruin his life over some insured merchandise?" "Your boy is 29 years old," I'd fired back. "Old enough to know breaking and entering is a crime." Now Victoria studied me over her teacup. You've stirred up quite the hornet's nest, dear. They're the ones swarming. I set my untouched tea down. Did you ask me here to convince me to drop the charges too? No. Victoria's eyes narrowed. I asked you here because it's time you understood what you're really dealing with. Before she could continue, the front door burst open. My mother rushed in, followed by Lexi. There you are. Mom's voice trembled. I've been calling for days. How could you do this to us? To you? I stood up. He robbed me. Rhea, sit down, Victoria commanded. You're not helping. But she's destroying this family. Mom collapsed into an armchair. Colby's talking about leaving town. Graham won't even speak to me anymore. Good, I snapped. Maybe he should focus on why his son's a thief instead of threatening me. Lexi stepped between us. Daphne, please, just hear Mom out. No, you all need to hear me. I faced them each in turn. Colby broke into my store. He stole from me. He betrayed my trust. And instead of holding him accountable, you're all acting like I'm the criminal. It's more complicated than that, Victoria said quietly. What's complicated about it? Victoria set her tea down with a sharp clink. Colby's actions. They're part of a pattern. One this family has chosen to ignore for far too long. Victoria, don't. Mom's warning was sharp. Don't what? I looked between them. What pattern? Victoria's response was cut off by my phone ringing. Kent's name flashed on the screen, my friend who'd been helping me document the aftermath of the break-in. Take it, Victoria said, but come back tomorrow, alone. I stepped onto the porch to answer. Kent, you need to get down here. His voice was urgent. I was reviewing the security footage again. There's something you need to see. I'm on my way. I grabbed my purse, ignoring my mother's protests. Daphne, wait. Lexi caught up to me at my car. There's something you should know about Colby, about what happened 3 years ago at Uncle Tommy's wedding. Save it. I yanked my door open. I'm done with family secrets. But no. I met her eyes. Either stand with me or get out of my way. I'm finding out the truth, with or without this family's help. The drive to Kent's office was a blur of anger and questions. What pattern was Victoria talking about? What had happened at Tommy's wedding? Why did it feel like everyone knew something I didn't? Kent was waiting outside his accounting firm. You're not going to believe this. He led me to his office, pulling up the footage on his computer. Watch Tommy here. The video showed Tommy arriving at my store 2 hours before Colby's break-in, testing the back door before leaving. He cased the place for him, my hands clenched into fists. My own uncle helped him do this. There's more. Kent pulled up some old bank statements. Remember when you asked me to look into Colby's finances? I found a pattern of large cash deposits following other robberies in the area. And guess who else had similar deposits? Tommy's bank records filled the screen. They've done this before, I whispered. They've been doing this together. Want to know the kicker? Kent pointed to a transaction. 3 years ago, right after Tommy's wedding, they both made massive deposits. The same week that high-end jewelry store was hit. Lexi's earlier words echoed in my head. Something about what happened at Tommy's wedding. My phone buzzed with a text from Victoria. Now you're asking the right questions. Come tomorrow at noon. Bring what your friend found. I looked at Kent. I need copies of everything. Already done. He handed me a USB drive. What are you going to do? I thought about my family's desperate attempts to keep me quiet, about Victoria's hints and Lexi's unfinished warning. I'm going to rip their secrets wide open, I said. All of them. Victoria's hands shook as she examined the bank statements Kent had compiled. I knew, she whispered. I knew, but I never had proof. Proof of what exactly? I leaned forward. What's really going on here? Before she could answer, someone pounded on her front door. Tommy's voice boomed through. Victoria, open up. I know she's in there. Victoria's eyes widened. Quick, through the back. She shoved the USB drive into my hands. Take these to the storage unit on Maple Street, number 479. The key's under the snake plant by your feet. There's more there. Everything I've collected over the years. The pounding grew louder. I grabbed the key, slipping out through her garden just as I heard the front door burst open. Where is she? Tommy's voice carried through the open window. Who? Victoria's voice was steel. And how dare you barge into my home like this? I didn't stay to hear more, racing to my car and speeding toward Maple Street. My phone exploded with messages. 3 from Tommy, 2 from Uncle Graham, and 1 from Colby. You have no idea what you're doing. Stop digging. The storage unit was small and dusty. Inside, I found boxes of old documents, photographs, and journals. A manila envelope caught my eye, labeled Wedding Incident 2020. I thought I'd find you here. I spun around. Lexi stood in the doorway, arms crossed. How did you? I followed you from Victoria's. She stepped inside, closing the door. Tommy's losing it. He knows Victoria's been keeping records. Records of what? I held up the envelope. What happened at the wedding, Lexi? She sank down onto a box. I saw something I shouldn't have. Tommy and Colby, behind the reception hall. They were splitting up money, talking about some job they'd pulled. When they saw me, she shuddered. Tommy said if I ever told anyone, he'd make sure Mom lost everything. What do you mean, lost everything? The family business? It's not just Dad's name on it. Tommy and Graham have been using it to launder money for years. One word from Tommy, and it all comes crashing down. My phone buzzed. Kent, you need to see this. Found police reports matching the dates of their deposits. Hit after hit, all high-end retailers. They're career criminals, I whispered, and the family's been covering for them. Not all of us. Lexi grabbed a journal from a nearby box. Victoria's been documenting everything. That's why she pushed you to investigate. She needed someone who wasn't afraid to stand up to them. I started photographing documents with my phone. We need copies of everything before... The storage unit door rattled. Graham's voice carried through. The car's here. Check inside. Back corner, Lexi hissed, pointing to a hidden door connecting to the next unit. Victoria showed me once. Go, I'll stall them. I slipped through with an armful of documents just as the main door rolled up. Through the thin wall, I heard Graham's angry voice. Where is she? Where's who? Lexi's innocent tone was perfect. I'm just cleaning out some old stuff Victoria said I could have. Don't play dumb. Tommy this time. Where are the records? I don't know what you're talking about, but if you're looking for Daphne, she's meeting with her lawyer right now. Something about security footage showing you at her store before the break-in? Silence followed her words. Then Graham spoke quietly. Tommy, you said you weren't involved. I'm not. She's lying. Am I? Lexi's voice hardened. I saw the footage myself. Want to explain that to Uncle Graham? Or should we talk about what really happened at your wedding? More silence. Then footsteps retreating, followed by cars starting. Lexi opened the connecting door. They're gone, but they'll be back with reinforcements. I clutched the documents to my chest. Why are you helping me now? You were against me pressing charges. Because I'm tired of being afraid. She grabbed another box of records. Victoria's right. Someone needs to stop them. But you can't do it alone. My phone lit up with a text from Victoria. Got away from Tommy. Meet at Kent's office. Bring everything. I looked at Lexi. You sure about this? Once we expose them... Mom will never forgive us, she finished. But maybe that's the price of doing the right thing. We loaded the boxes into my car, documents that would shatter our family forever. But as we drove to Kent's office, I felt lighter than I had in days. The truth was finally coming out, and there was no stopping it now. Kent's office looked like a war room, with documents spread across every surface. Victoria sat at his desk, methodically sorting through years of evidence while Lexi and I cross-referenced dates with police reports. Look at this, Kent said, pointing to his computer screen. Every major robbery in the past 5 years. They all line up with family events. The country club heist, right after Graham's anniversary party. The art gallery theft, the weekend of Mom's funeral. Perfect alibis, Victoria nodded. Who would suspect someone attending a family function? My phone buzzed. Mom again. Please come home. We can talk about this. Don't answer, Lexi warned. She's with Graham and Tommy at the house. They're trying to trap you into a family meeting. The office door burst open. Colby stood there, pale and sweating. Get out, I snapped, reaching for my phone. Wait, he held up his hands. I'm not here to cause trouble. I need to talk to you, alone. Kent stepped between us. That's not happening. Please. Colby's voice cracked. They're going to pin everything on me. Tommy and Dad, they're meeting with their lawyer right now. They're going to say I acted alone, that I've been stealing for years without their knowledge. Victoria stood up. Let him talk. You can talk right here, I said, in front of everyone. Colby slumped into a chair. It started at Tommy's wedding. I was in debt, bad debt. Tommy said he could help, but I had to do exactly what he said. The wedding was just a test run. The jewelry store robbery, Lexi said quietly. Yeah. Colby wiped his face. After that, it got easier. Tommy would pick the targets, Dad would handle the money laundering through the family business, and I did the actual jobs. And my store? My voice shook with anger. Was that their idea too? No. He wouldn't meet my eyes. That was all me. I thought if I hit someone in the family, they couldn't report it without exposing everything. I never expected you to actually press charges. You underestimated her, Victoria said sharply. Just like they all did. Kent's printer whirred to life, spitting out documents. I've got enough here to bury all of them. Bank records, security footage, witness statements, everything. They'll destroy Mom's life, Lexi whispered. The business... Mom's not innocent in this, I said. She knew. They all knew. Not everything. Colby pulled out his phone. But you're right, and I can prove it. I've been recording their conversations for months. Insurance, in case they ever tried to throw me under the bus. Like they're doing now. He played a recording. Tommy's voice filled the room. If anyone starts asking questions, Colby takes the fall. That was always the deal. Graham, back me up here. They're meeting at the house tonight, Colby said. Everyone will be there. They're planning to present a united front, make me out to be the black sheep who's been stealing from the family for years. Victoria's eyes gleamed. Then that's where we'll confront them. All of us, with all of this evidence. It's too dangerous, Kent protested. They're cornered animals at this point. No, I stood up. Victoria's right. I'm tired of hiding. Tired of them controlling the narrative. Tonight ends it. All of it. Lexi grabbed my arm. Then we do it smart. Kent, call your friend at the police department. Have them ready, but out of sight. Colby, you'll need to wear a wire. Already ahead of you. Kent pulled out recording equipment. State of the art. They'll never know. I'll get them drinking, Victoria said. They always talk more when they're drunk. My phone buzzed one final time. A message from Mom. Family dinner tonight, 7 p.m., non-negotiable. I showed them the text. Looks like we're expected. Good. Colby attached the wire under his shirt. Time they learned they can't control everything. We spent the next hour preparing, gathering documents, making copies, ensuring every piece of evidence was bulletproof. One way or another, tonight would change everything. Ready? Lexi asked as we prepared to leave. I looked at our unlikely alliance. Victoria, the secret keeper turned whistleblower. Kent, the loyal friend who never backed down. Colby, the thief seeking redemption. And Lexi, the sister who finally chose truth over peace. Ready, I said. Let's go blow up our family. As we drove to my childhood home, I thought about all the family dinners where lies were served alongside Mom's pot roast. Tonight, truth would be the main course, and justice for dessert. Whether they were ready or not, everything was about to change. Mom's pot roast filled the house with a familiar aroma that turned my stomach. Everyone sat around the dining room table, the good china laid out like this was just another family dinner. Kent waited in his car down the street, monitoring Colby's wire and coordinating with the police. Well, Graham raised his wine glass. Shall we discuss this situation like adults? Let's. I remained standing, my bag of evidence heavy at my feet. Let's start with Tommy casing my store 2 hours before Colby broke in. Tommy's fork clattered against his plate. That's ridiculous. Is it? Victoria pulled out her tablet. Because the security footage is quite clear. You brought her into this? Mom's face paled. Victoria, you promised. I promised to protect this family. Victoria cut in. Not its criminals. Graham slammed his hand on the table. Now listen here. No, you listen. Lexi's voice cracked through the air. We know everything. The wedding heist, the art gallery, the country club, all of it. Lexi, Mom gasped. How could I what, Mom? Tell the truth? Someone had to. Colby shifted uncomfortably, the wire hidden under his shirt broadcasting everything to Kent. You don't understand, Tommy said smoothly. Sometimes families have to what? I pulled out the bank statements. Launder money, stage robberies, Threaten their own relatives into silence? Graham's face turned red. You ungrateful. Don't. Victoria's command froze him mid-sentence. Don't you dare call her ungrateful when you've been stealing from her generation's future to fund your schemes. The business, Mom started, is built on criminal money. I finished. We have proof. Years of it. Tommy stood up slowly. Whatever you think you have. We have everything. Lexi pulled out her phone, playing one of Colby's recordings. Tommy's voice filled the room, discussing plans for the art gallery heist. The color drained from his face. Where did you get that? From me. Colby's voice shook. I recorded everything. Every planning session, every threat, every time you promised it would be the last job. You little snake, Graham snarled, lunging across the table at his son. Touch him and I call in the police right now, I warned, holding up my phone. They're already outside. The room went deadly quiet. You wouldn't, Mom whispered. We're your family. Family? I laughed bitterly. Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't threaten each other. Family doesn't force their children to become criminals. We did what we had to do, Graham insisted. The business was failing. So you turned to theft? Victoria's voice dripped contempt. You forced your own son into becoming your burglar? I didn't force... Yes, you did, Colby exploded. You said if I didn't help, you'd let the loan sharks come after me. Your own son. Tommy moved toward the door. This is all very dramatic, but... Sit down. Lexi blocked his path. Nobody's leaving until everything's out in the open. Everything already is, I said, pulling out my phone. Kent, you getting all this? Crystal clear. His voice came through the speaker. Police are ready on my signal. You're bluffing, Tommy sneered. Try me. I met his eyes. One word from me and they come in, or we can handle this my way. Which is, Graham demanded, confession, restitution, and you all get help, real help. Otherwise, I send everything to the police. Every recording, every document, every piece of evidence we've gathered. You'd destroy this family? Mom's voice broke. You already did that, Lexi said quietly. We're just bringing it into the light. Silence fell as they absorbed our ultimatum. I could see them calculating, weighing options, looking for escape routes. Time's up, I announced. What's it going to be? Tommy slumped in his chair. How much? Everything you stole plus interest. And you all get counseling. Real counseling. Not just family therapy where you lie to the therapist. And if we refuse? Graham's voice was dangerous. I pulled out one final document, a detailed confession Colby had written, naming names, dates, amounts. Then this goes public. All of it. The grandfather clock ticked loudly in the silence. Finally, Mom spoke. Graham, she said softly, it's over. Let it be over. He stared at her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Okay, I said, pulling out contracts Kent had prepared. Let's begin. As they started signing, I caught Victoria's approving nod. This wasn't the end. There would be months of rehabilitation, therapy, and rebuilding trust. But it was a start. The truth was finally out, and with it came the first real chance our family had at healing. 3 weeks after the confrontation, I sat in Dr. Marshall's office, watching my family attempt group therapy for the first time. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. So, Dr. Marshall adjusted her glasses. Who would like to begin? Nobody moved. Tommy stared at the floor. Graham fidgeted with his wedding ring. Mom dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. I will. Colby straightened up. I've been clean for 20 days now. The gambling addiction meetings are helping. That's wonderful, Colby. Dr. Marshall smiled. Would anyone like to respond to that? Why didn't you come to me? Mom burst out. I'm your mother. You could have told me about the gambling instead of letting Tommy drag you into... Don't you dare blame this on me, Tommy snapped. You're the one who taught us to hide everything. Family image is everything, Tommy. Don't let anyone know we're struggling, Tommy. That's not what I... Enough! Victoria's voice cut through the chaos. We're here to heal, not assign blame. Dr. Marshall nodded. Victoria's right. This isn't about pointing fingers. It's about understanding how we got here and where we go next. I know where I'm going, Graham muttered. Straight to bankruptcy thanks to their restitution plan. The business will survive, I said firmly. Kent's financial team is restructuring everything legitimately. You're lucky we're not all going to prison. Lexi touched my arm. Daphne, remember what we discussed about productive dialogue? I took a deep breath. You're right. I'm sorry. What I meant was, we have a chance to rebuild, the right way this time. Speaking of rebuilding, Dr. Marshall consulted her notes. How is the repayment plan progressing? The first installment was transferred to my account yesterday, I confirmed, and the insurance company dropped their investigation after we explained things. Explained things? Tommy scoffed. You mean after we humiliated ourselves with a confession? After you took responsibility, Victoria corrected. There's a difference. Can we talk about trust? Colby's voice was quiet. I know I broke it, with everyone, but especially with you, Daphne. I want to make it right. Trust is earned, I said, softer this time. But you're trying. That matters. Mom started crying again. I just don't understand how we got here. Where did I go wrong? Mom, Lexi leaned forward. This isn't about wrong or right anymore. It's about honesty. Real honesty, not just the appearance of perfection. Dr. Marshall nodded encouragingly. That's very insightful, Lexi. How does everyone feel about what she just said? Scared, Graham admitted, surprising everyone. I've spent so long maintaining this image, I don't know how to be anything else. That's why we're here, Dr. Marshall said, to learn new patterns. Speaking of which, how are the individual therapy sessions going? Tommy shifted uncomfortably. My therapist says I have control issues. You don't say, I muttered, earning a sharp look from Lexi. Actually, Tommy continued, she's probably right. I think I got addicted to the power. The planning, the control, making everyone dance to my tune. That's very self-aware, Tommy, Dr. Marshall praised. Recognition is the first step toward change. My phone buzzed. A text from Kent. Insurance check cleared. Store repairs can start tomorrow. Daphne? Dr. Marshall's voice pulled me back. Would you like to share what you're feeling right now? I looked around the room, at Colby's genuine remorse, at Tommy's struggling self-awareness, at Graham's uncomfortable acceptance, at Mom's tearful hope, at Victoria's quiet strength, at Lexi's unwavering support. I feel cautiously optimistic, I said finally. We're not okay. We might not be okay for a long time, but we're trying. That's something we never did before. Baby steps, Victoria agreed. Rome wasn't built in a day, and families aren't healed in one either. Dr. Marshall smiled. That's a good place to end today's session. Remember your individual appointments this week and the homework we discussed. As we filed out, Mom caught my arm. Sunday dinner? She asked hesitantly. I know it's not required in the agreement, but maybe, I said. Let's see how this week goes. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But as I watched them leave, each carrying their own weight of guilt and hope, I realized something had shifted. The lies were gone, replaced by uncomfortable truths. It hurt, but it was a clean hurt, like setting a broken bone so it could heal properly. My phone buzzed again. The contractor confirming tomorrow's appointment to repair my store. One step at a time, everything was being rebuilt, including us. Maybe that's what real family was. Not perfect harmony, but the willingness to face the discord and work through it together. The grand reopening of Velvet and Lace was set for Saturday morning. I stood in the newly renovated space, adjusting a display case when the bell above the door chimed. Wow. Colby stood awkwardly in the entrance. It looks amazing. What are you doing here? I hadn't seen him outside of therapy sessions in weeks. He held up a small package. I wanted to return this before the reopening. Inside was a vintage Cartier bracelet, one of the pieces he'd stolen. I tracked it down from the fence I sold it to, took most of my savings, but you didn't have to. Yes, I did. He placed it carefully on the counter. I know it doesn't make up for everything, but it's a start. The bell chimed again. Tommy walked in, stopping short when he saw Colby. I can come back, he muttered. No, I said firmly. What do you want? He pulled out an envelope. The final insurance paperwork and something else. He handed me a stack of papers. My confession, the full version, every job, every plan, every detail. Do with it what you want. Why now? My therapist says I need to face what I've done, all of it. He wouldn't meet my eyes. She's right. I can't keep pretending I was just helping Colby. I was the mastermind, and I need to own that. The bell chimed a third time. Mom stood there with Victoria and Lexi carrying boxes. "We thought you could use help setting up," Lexi said, setting down her box. "But if it's not a good time..." Actually, I looked around at them. Maybe this is exactly the right time. We spent the next hour working together, arranging displays and unpacking inventory. The tension slowly eased as we fell into a rhythm. "Remember when you first opened?" Mom asked, carefully arranging a silk scarf. "I thought you were crazy to invest your savings in a boutique." "You told me I'd fail within 6 months," I reminded her. I was wrong. She touched my arm. "About so many things." "Mom, no, let me finish." She straightened her shoulders. "I pushed this family to maintain appearances at any cost. I ignored the warning signs. I chose willful blindness over truth. And look where it got us." "Speaking of truth," Tommy interrupted, "there's something else you should know." He glanced at Colby. "The country club heist? It wasn't just us. Graham was there too." "What?" Mom's face went pale. "He was the lookout," Colby confirmed. "He said he needed to make sure we did it right." Victoria nodded grimly. "I suspected as much. That's why he fought so hard against the therapy sessions." The bell chimed again. Kent walked in, carrying coffee for everyone. "How's it going in here?" He stopped, sensing the tension. "Bad time?" "Perfect time," I said, taking a coffee. "We're finally getting some real honesty." "About that," Colby cleared his throat. "Kent, I owe you an apology too. I know you lost clients when this all came out." Kent shrugged. "Actually, I gained some. Turns out people appreciate an accountant who exposes financial crimes instead of hiding them." "Unlike some people," Tommy muttered. "That's not fair," Mom protested. "Your father is exactly where he needs to be." Victoria cut in therapy, facing his choices. We worked in silence for a while, the weight of truth settling around us like dust. "The opening tomorrow," Colby said suddenly. "Will you have security?" "Yes," I met his eyes. "And cameras and alarms. Trust takes time." He nodded. "I understand. I'll earn it back. Somehow." "We all will," Tommy added quietly. The afternoon light slanted through the windows, making the new display cases sparkle. My restored boutique felt different now. Stronger somehow, like it had weathered a storm and come out better for it. "I'd like to come tomorrow," Mom said. "To the opening, if that's okay." I looked at her, really looked at her. The perfect facade was gone, replaced by something more real, more vulnerable. "I'd like that," I said. "All of you can come, but no stealing." The joke fell flat, but Colby managed a weak laugh. "Too soon?" I asked. "Maybe a few years too soon," Lexi smiled. "But we'll get there." As they left that evening, each carrying the weight of their confessions and the lightness of truth, I realized something. We weren't just rebuilding my store, we were rebuilding ourselves, one painful truth at a time. Tomorrow would be a new beginning, not just for Velvet and Lace, but for all of us. It wouldn't be perfect, but it would be real. And real was exactly what we needed. The reopening celebration was in full swing when Graham walked through the door. The bustling crowd fell silent, all eyes turning to watch this unexpected arrival. "Dad?" Colby stepped forward. "What are you doing here?" Graham held up a small gift bag. "I came to return something." He walked to where I stood behind the counter. "And to say something." I took the bag cautiously. Inside was a familiar pearl necklace, my grandmother's, which had disappeared during the reading of her will. "You took this?" My hands shook as I lifted it out. "My first theft," he admitted, loud enough for nearby customers to hear. I told myself she would have wanted me to have it, just like I told myself every excuse after that. "Graham," Mom whispered. "Not here." "Yes, here." He turned to face the gathered crowd. "My name is Graham Walker, and I'm a thief. I taught my son and my nephew to be thieves. I nearly destroyed this store and this family because I couldn't face my own failures." Kent moved closer, ready to intervene if needed. "But that stops today," Graham continued. "I've signed over my share of the family business to Lexi. She'll run it properly, legally, the way it should have been run all along." Lexi gasped. Dad, I can't. Yes, you can. He managed a weak smile. You're stronger than I ever was. All of you are. Tommy stepped forward. Uncle Graham. No more excuses. Graham cut him off. No more lies. No more pretending. He turned back to me. I'm sorry, Daphne. Not just for the necklace or the break-in, but for making you doubt yourself when you were the only one brave enough to stand up for what's right. Victoria appeared at my side, taking the necklace. I remember when your grandmother wore this to my wedding, she said, fastening it around my neck. She would be proud of you today. All of us? I asked pointedly. No, she smiled sadly. But she would be hopeful, like I am. The crowd began to disperse, returning to browsing and champagne. Graham turned to leave, but Colby caught his arm. Stay, he said. Please, we're having dinner after, all of us. Even Tommy's bringing his therapist. Graham looked around uncertainly. I don't deserve... It's not about deserving, I interrupted. It's about choosing. Every day we choose who we want to be. Today, you chose truth. That matters. The afternoon flowed into evening. Customers came and went, many drawn by the story that had made local headlines. But they stayed for the merchandise, the atmosphere, and the palpable sense of renewal. As the last customers left, we gathered around the central display case, the same one Colby had emptied that night that felt like a lifetime ago. Kent poured champagne while Victoria brought out a cake. To new beginnings, Mom raised her glass. And hard truths, Tommy added. And family, Lexi said firmly. The real kind. Graham cleared his throat. I have something else to say. He pulled out a folded paper. I've been working with my therapist on this. It's a list of everyone I've wronged, and how I plan to make amends. Dad, Colby started. Let me finish. Graham's voice strengthened. I can't take back what I did, but I can work every day to be better, to be worthy of the second chance you've all given me. That's what family does, I said, surprising myself. We hold each other accountable, but we also hold each other up. Victoria raised her glass. To accountability. And to forgiveness, I added, meeting each of their eyes in turn. Not the easy kind that comes with denial, but the hard kind that comes after truth. As we celebrated into the evening, I looked around my restored boutique. The new security system blinked steadily, a reminder of lessons learned. But it was more than that. Each display case now held stories of theft and redemption, of lies and truth, of breaking and rebuilding. Kent squeezed my hand. You did it. We did it, I corrected, watching my family. Broken but healing. Imperfect but trying. All of us. The night ended with promises of Sunday dinner, therapy appointments, and continued amends. As they left, each carrying their own mixture of regret and hope, I realized something profound. Sometimes it takes breaking something completely to rebuild it stronger. Sometimes the hardest path, the one through truth and accountability, is the only way to real healing. I locked up my boutique, the security system humming reassuringly. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for the first time in months, I was ready to face them. Because this time, I wasn't facing them alone.
Hello, everyone. My name is Melissa, and I'm 28 years old. Many people often wonder why I'm single, and I think it's time I shared my story. A few years back, I wasn't single. I was happily married to the man I thought was my dream come true. But as life teaches us, not all dreams unfold as we hope. My marriage, once perfect in my eyes, crumbled when I discovered a startling truth about my husband, Henry. Initially, everything seemed idyllic, as is often the case. Henry and I started as good friends. The first time I laid eyes on him, I couldn't look away. My best friend Julie noticed right away. One day at work, I approached her desk excitedly. "Hey, Julie, have you seen the new guy, Henry? He's seriously handsome, isn't he?" Julie chuckled. "Oh, I noticed him. He's definitely a catch. And look at you. You've got that sparkle in your eye." I blushed, dismissing it lightly. "What?" "No, I just think he's good-looking, that's all." "Sure, just good-looking," she teased. "Melissa, you should go talk to him. You're both single, and it seems like fate's playing a part. You won't know unless you try." She had a point. Maybe you're right, but what if he's not interested? Melissa, confidence is key. Just be yourself and start a conversation. You never know where it might lead. Encouraged by Julie, I decided to take a chance. During our break, I saw Henry struggling with the coffee machine and seized the opportunity to help. Here you go, I said, handing him a cup of coffee. Thank you so much. Hi, I'm Melissa. Hi, Melissa, I'm Henry. If you don't mind, maybe we could grab some snacks after work and chat more? I was a bit too eager in my reply, which made me instantly regretful. But before I could backtrack, Henry smiled warmly. Why not? How could I say no to such a beautiful invitation? I was thrilled. That was the beginning of our dating journey, which blossomed into more. We had many beautiful moments, like the time we sat on a park bench, and Henry looked at me with such love, making me feel cherished and special. We even joked about our first meeting at that very spot. But as you know, life can be unpredictable, and the perfect picture I had of my marriage eventually shattered. I hope by sharing my story, others can see that sometimes the paths we take teach us important lessons about love and resilience. Of course, I remember Melissa. How could I forget? That day completely changed my life. You always manage to make me blush, don't you? Well, it's easy when I'm looking at the most beautiful person in the world, I replied, smiling. Henry, stop it. You're going to make me melt, I said, feeling overwhelmed with affection. Melissa, there's something I've been wanting to ask you, Henry said, his voice filled with emotion. What is it, Henry? I asked, my heart beating faster. Melissa, I love you more than anything in this world. Will you make me the happiest man alive and marry me? Henry proposed, his eyes full of hope. I was ecstatic, almost screaming with happiness. Henry was the most handsome and kind-hearted man I had ever met. He had a way of making every moment joyful. At that moment, I felt like I had received the most precious gift I had ever longed for. Yes, Henry, a big yes, I exclaimed. We embraced each other tightly, sealing our love with a passionate kiss. It was a beautiful beginning to our journey toward marriage and whatever lay ahead. I was so excited. I couldn't keep it to myself. I had to tell my best friend Julie. You will not believe what just happened. Henry proposed to me and I said yes, I told her. What? Melissa, that's incredible. But aren't you two just starting to date? Maybe you should take some more time to think about it, Julie cautioned. I know it might seem fast, Julie, but when you know, you just know. Henry and I share something special, something deep. I can feel it in my heart, I explained. I get that, but marriage is a big step. You must ensure you're on the same page about everything. You've only been dating for a short while, Julie replied, her concern evident. Julie, I know it's quick, but I've never been more sure about anything in my life. Henry and I have talked about our dreams, our values, and our future. We are on the same page, and I can see how much he loves me, I reassured her. Well, if you're sure about it and he makes you happy, then that's what matters most. Just remember, I'm here for you, no matter what, Julie said, her support unwavering. Thank you, Julie. Your support means the world to me. I truly believe this is the right decision. I'm so excited about our future together, I told her, feeling grateful and optimistic. We got married in a beautiful ceremony surrounded by our close friends and family. It felt like all our dreams had come true when we exchanged vows and rings, marking the start of our new life together. From the moment Henry and I exchanged our vows, I wholeheartedly believed that our life together would be nothing short of perfect. That first year truly felt like an enchanting adventure. We were deeply immersed in that blissful honeymoon phase, almost like characters in a fairy tale, surrounded by love and wonder. We cherished countless sweet moments and stayed up late into the night sharing our hopes and dreams. It felt like living in a storybook. But, as they often say, time has a way of peeling back the layers, revealing the true essence of things. As more time passed and we settled into the rhythm of married life, The initial dazzle began to fade, and we started to notice each other's flaws and quirks. It was akin to seeing the imperfect parts of a flower you adore, still beautiful, but not without its blemishes. I started feeling somewhat neglected by Henry. There was this one evening, not long after a trivial argument that had blown out of proportion the night before, when the tension in the living room was palpable. I couldn't stand the distance growing between us, so I decided it was time to clear the air. "Henry, we need to talk," I said, the urgency clear in my voice. "What is it, Melissa? You've been so distant lately," he replied, his eyes avoiding mine. "You're always on your phone, you come home late, and you've been canceling our date nights for weeks." Henry seemed reluctant to confront the issue, offering up the usual busy at work excuse. "It's just work, Melissa. You know how stressful it's been. I understand that work can be tough, but it feels like you're keeping something from me. Are we okay?" I pressed, seeking reassurance. "Of course we're okay. It's just that I've been dealing with a lot and didn't want to burden you with it," he responded, still not meeting my gaze. "You know we're supposed to share everything, Henry. When you're hurting, I'm hurting too. Please talk to me," I pleaded. "Let's not turn this into another fight like last night. I need to focus on my work today," he said dismissively, effectively shutting down the conversation. That exchange left me heartbroken. I had hoped we could resolve our issues, but it became clear that it wasn't the right time to delve deeper. Then, one quiet day at the office, Julie approached me, noticing my somber mood. "Hey, Melissa, what's wrong? You look so sad," she said with concern. "Julie, I've been noticing something lately and it's bothering me. Henry has been distant and seems to be ignoring me," I confided, the weight of my worries evident in my tone. "We're just not like we used to be," I confessed to Julie, feeling the weight of the change in my relationship. "Oh, Melissa, I'm sorry to hear that. Maybe he's going through something tough right now. You know, sometimes people need a little space to sort out their issues," Julie suggested gently. "Yeah, I've considered that possibility, but it's just so unlike him. We used to share everything, and now it feels like he's closing himself off," I replied, the confusion and hurt clear in my voice. "It's important to keep the lines of communication open, Melissa. Maybe approach him gently, ask if everything is okay, and let him know you're there for him no matter what. Sometimes just knowing someone cares can make a difference," Julie advised. "You're right, Julie. I'll give him some space for now, but I plan to have a calm conversation with him soon. I just really miss how things used to be between us," I said, longing for the closeness we once had. "I'm sure you two can work through this. Relationships have their ups and downs, but with love and understanding, you'll find your way back to each other," Julie encouraged, giving me a hopeful smile. "Thank you, Julie," I replied, feeling a bit better after our talk. Over the next few days, I tried to stay calm at home, but tensions were mounting. Julie was preoccupied with her issues, which meant we couldn't spend much time together, and she seemed a bit off whenever we did talk. Eventually, Julie called me out for coffee, and of course, I agreed, eager for any support from my best friend. As we sat in the cafe sipping our coffee, I couldn't help but notice Julie's unusual behavior. "Julie, you've been acting strange lately. Is there something you're not telling me?" I asked, concern in my voice. "Melissa, promise you won't get angry?" Julie started, her tone serious, which immediately alarmed me. "What's going on, Julie? You're scaring me," I pressed, needing to understand her hesitance. "Well, I overheard Angela talking on the phone the other day. She mentioned meeting up with a married man," Julie confessed, her eyes not meeting mine. "Angela? Why would she be involved with a married man?" I questioned, puzzled and increasingly anxious. "Melissa, I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I think it might be Henry," Julie said slowly, her voice trembling with the weight of her suspicion. "What? Henry, are you sure?" I gasped, my heart sinking. "I'm not certain, but the pieces seem to fit, and it terrifies me to even think about it," Julie admitted. "This can't be true. Henry would never do that to me, would he?" The seeds of doubt planted by Julie's words began to grow. My mind raced with suspicion about my husband's loyalty. Julie's nervousness over the past few days now made sense. Was Henry cheating on me? And with Angela, who was only 18? How could she be involved with him? The mere thought of them together sent chills down my spine, marking the beginning of a tumultuous period filled with doubt and fear. I had even seen them together, Julie. And you mentioned that Henry had been losing interest in me these past few weeks, so I'm starting to think maybe he's cheating on me, I shared, the realization dawning on me. As tears streamed down my cheeks, Julie wrapped her arms around me in a comforting hug. But I've always loved him. Why would he do this to me? I sobbed, feeling betrayed. Melissa, think about it. Remember how everything changed after you gave him power of attorney over your property? That property is ancestral and worth a lot. It seems like Henry might have taken advantage of your trust, Julie suggested, her voice filled with concern. Hearing this, a cold realization washed over me. I've made a huge mistake. I'm going to leave him, I resolved, my voice shaky but determined. Yes, he does not deserve you, but before you do anything, maybe you should confront him and let him know you're aware of his actions. It could teach him a lesson, Julie advised, supportive but stern. You're right, Julie. I can't let him get away with this so easily, I agreed, my resolve hardening. After planning a few steps with Julie, I left the cafe feeling fortified for the confrontation ahead. When I arrived home, Henry was, as usual, engrossed in his phone. I approached him with a firm stance. Henry, we need to talk. You've been very distant, and your behavior isn't changing, I said, my tone serious. Melissa, there's something I need to tell you, Henry replied, finally looking up from his phone with a troubled expression. What is it, Henry? I demanded, bracing myself. I can't keep this from you any longer. I've been having an affair, Henry confessed, his voice barely a whisper. Even though I had braced myself for the truth, hearing him admit it was a different kind of pain. Tears welled in my eyes as he shamelessly acknowledged his betrayal. Are you serious? How could you do this after everything we've been through? I asked, my voice breaking. I don't know, Melissa. I just started losing interest and there's someone else now, Henry admitted, his tone detached, revealing the full extent of his indifference. Furious and heartbroken, I pressed him further. Who is she? How long has this been going on? Her name is Angela, and it's been a few months, Henry said coldly, confirming my worst fears. Our entire marriage, our love, and everything we had built together seemed like a lie. How could you do this? I cried out, the pain of his betrayal slicing through me. Henry left the room, clearly wanting to avoid further confrontation. He likely hoped for a divorce, probably to be with her. After a few hours, I was lying on my bed, trying to process everything when Henry returned. Melissa, there's something else you need to know, he said as he entered the room. What is it now, Henry? I asked, barely able to look at him, not sure I could handle more heartache. I brought Angela here, he revealed, adding yet another layer of shock and disbelief to an already unbearable day. Henry's declaration that he wanted a divorce hit me like a storm out of nowhere. I thought this would be the best way to make you leave, he said, his tone almost apologetic yet resolute. What struck me harder was that he had brought her with him. This is Angela, and she's the one I've been seeing. The absurdity of the situation was overwhelming, and in a bizarre twist of emotion, I burst into laughter. Henry and Angela stared at me, their expressions a mix of confusion and shock, clearly not expecting this reaction. They had anticipated many scenarios, but laughter was not one of them. Melissa, can you please explain why you're laughing? Henry asked, desperation creeping into his voice. This is just so ironic, Henry. No, this isn't funny. It's far from it, I replied, trying to regain my composure. But sometimes when you're faced with something so unexpected and bizarre, laughter is the only way to cope. Coping with what? Angela interjected, her voice tinged with annoyance and confusion. Coping with the fact that my husband, whom I've loved deeply, chose my best friend's little sister as his mistress. It's like a plot twist in a tragic comedy, I said, my laughter fading into a more somber tone. I never wanted to hurt you like this, Melissa, Henry tried to explain, his face showing a hint of guilt. I know, Henry, and I know you never truly felt anything for me. Now you've made your decision, but that doesn't change what you did. What happens next, though, is up to me, I said, my voice steady but filled with a mix of anger and resolution. As I explained, Henry's expression shifted, and Angela, on the verge of tears, looked utterly lost. I held no ill will towards her. She was just a young girl caught in a situation far beyond her maturity. But Henry, that was a different story. And Henry, that's not the only reason I was laughing. There's more to reveal, I continued, pausing for effect. If you're with Angela and you no longer love me, then there's no reason for me to stay. It's time for us to move on. This is not what I had planned, but sometimes things just don't turn out the way we expect, I concluded, my decision clear. I left the house Henry and I shared, knowing he had married me for my property and expecting that he would soon realize the full implications of his actions. I went to Julie's home, where we sat in her cozy living room, anxiously waiting for Henry's inevitable call. As expected, my phone finally rang. Hello, Henry, what do you want now? I answered, my voice cool and detached. I want to say sorry, Julie. I got attracted to Angela, but I have come to understand the importance of Melissa's love, he blurted out, his voice desperate. Shut up, Henry, you are so shameless. Please, Julie, can I talk to Melissa for a while? He pleaded. I took the phone from Julie, feeling a tumultuous mix of anger and resignation. What is it, Henry? I'm sorry for whatever I've done, Melissa, he said, his voice pleading. Come on, Henry, don't make me laugh. Looks like you found out about the power of attorney you just lost, I said, my voice firm, signaling the final closure of our chapter together. Henry's confession of infidelity hit hard, and his silence on the phone only added to the gravity of the situation. Henry, did you think you could do this without any consequences? I asked, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. Melissa, yes, that's right. I found out before you could tell me, I continued, cutting off his stammering attempt at an apology. I knew something was off, and I'm not a naive person anymore. There's no room for love in my heart for someone who betrays me. Melissa, please, I'm sorry, I have nothing left to. Henry's voice trailed off, his excuses weak and unconvincing. I wish you had thought about that before, I replied sharply. Don't expect anything from me now. With that, I ended the call, and Julie looked at me with a mix of pride and sympathy. It took me weeks to start moving past that incident. Letting go of someone you once loved deeply is never easy, even when betrayal casts a long shadow over the memories. But I knew I had to choose what was best for me, and I worked on moving forward with my life, bolstered by the unwavering support of my best friend, Julie. I managed to secure a better job, Julie. Thank you for being there for me through all of this, I said one day as we shared a quiet moment of reflection. Of course, Melissa, you're stronger than you think. I'm glad to see you rebuilding your life, Julie responded, her encouragement warming my heart. Yeah, I got that job offer I've always wanted. It's amazing, I beamed, a sense of accomplishment filling me. I've realized I don't need someone who betrays my trust. I'm better off without Henry. You have come a long way, Julie agreed, her voice full of admiration. It had been a few months since those painful events, and both Julie and I were trying to mend our spirits and heal. Then, unexpectedly, Angela appeared at Julie's door. She looked exhausted and burdened, as if the weight of her own experiences with Henry had finally caught up to her. She hesitated at the doorstep, probably wondering how Julie would react. Despite my residual anger, I knew that Angela deserved a chance to explain herself. With a deep sigh, I gestured for her to come inside. "Julie, I need to talk to you," Angela said, her voice weary. I could see the fatigue in her eyes and the slump of her shoulders. Despite my deep-seated frustrations, I didn't want the situation to escalate into something worse. It seemed Angela might have left Henry, or perhaps he had pushed her away as he had done with me. Either way, she looked like she needed understanding, not judgment. I gestured for Angela to sit down, hoping that a conversation might help us untangle the complex web of emotions and events that had brought us here. As she settled into the seat, her first words were an admission of regret. "I made a terrible mistake, Julie, but now I want to correct it. I left Henry and I came back because he's bankrupt now. His bad habits finally caught up with him," Angela confessed, her voice tremulous. "And why should we care?" Julie snapped, her anger palpable. I could understand her feelings. After all, Angela's actions had deeply hurt us both. Yet as I looked at Angela, I remembered how isolating it felt to leave Henry, how alone I had been. Motivated by this memory, I found myself speaking up, hoping to bridge the gap between Julie's anger and Angela's distress. "Julie, please let her explain," I urged gently. "Julie, I know I hurt you and Melissa deeply, and I regret it every day. But I also believe that families should stick together in tough times, and I have nowhere else to go," Angela pleaded, her voice cracking with emotion. "Angela, you chose your path when you got involved with Henry. I can't just forget how you contributed to breaking Melissa's heart," Julie retorted, her gaze stern. Caught between my care for both Julie and Angela, I felt a profound tension. I've always believed that forgiveness could alleviate pain, not just for the forgiven, but for the forgiver as well. Perhaps it was time to let go of the bitterness that was only serving to poison us further. "Julie, I forgave her. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about letting go of the anger that weighs us down. It's part of moving on," I explained, hoping my words would resonate. "Julie, I am genuinely sorry for what I did. I'll do whatever it takes to make amends," Angela added earnestly. "I need time to think, Angela. This isn't something I can decide on right now," Julie said, her voice thick with emotion as she tried to process everything. Angela left shortly after, and all I could hope for was that, in time, Julie might find it within herself to forgive Angela, not for Angela's sake, but for her peace. The real fault lay with Henry, and he was already facing the consequences of his actions. Yet, the emotional scars he left behind lingered on. The betrayal had left me with a deep-seated mistrust, particularly towards men, which I still struggled to overcome. Recovering from such a betrayal is a slow and often painful process. However, amidst the tumult, I discovered a new sense of emotional independence. I was learning to rely more on myself and finding strength in my autonomy, and that was something to be happy about. Greetings. My name is Sarah, and at 42 years old, I find myself enveloped in the soft warmth of our cozy living room, yet grappling with a profound sense of grief and longing. As I pen this narrative, newfound courage bubbles within me, prompting me to give form to my experiences. This act serves not only as a therapeutic endeavor for myself, but also as a beacon of hope for others who might find echoes of their own chaotic lives within these words. My beloved husband Andrew and I shared 18 years of love before fate cruelly snatched him away just a few months ago. The agony of his absence is piercing, especially as it lingers so freshly in my heart. It feels as though time itself paused in that horrific moment when I was informed of his fatal car accident. The dreams we had nurtured, brimming with laughter and enduring companionship, were shattered in an instant. Never did I imagine that at 42, I would be navigating the world as a widow. The bond Andrew and I shared was deep and meaningful, sculpted through our mutual encounters with adversity. We were like two fragmented souls who discovered healing and solace in one another's embrace. My own journey was scarred early on as I was abandoned by my parents' loss to addiction, leaving me with lasting emotional wounds. Andrew, on the other hand, experienced a turbulent relationship with his mother, Evelyn, marked by deep-seated disappointment and betrayal. Despite her repeated attempts to re-enter his life with promises of change, she consistently reverted to her destructive habits, exploiting Andrew to support her addiction before vanishing repeatedly. In each other, Andrew and I found not just love, but a sanctuary, a place of trust that helped us both rise above the scars of our past. We were each other's steadfast support, our relationship a testament to resilience in a world that often showed us scant mercy. Our love was flourishing, and for a time it seemed we might finally be free from the shadows that had long trailed us. It had been 3 peaceful years since Evelyn last disrupted our lives, and Andrew was beginning to accept the painful truth that she might never change. This narrative is my way of processing our shared past and my current reality, hoping to inspire resilience and understanding in others who might be struggling with their own life's tumult. As a couple, Andrew and I had nurtured a kind of love that seemed almost powerful enough to heal the deep wounds we both carried. Yet almost is the operative word, as his untimely departure from this world left me engulfed in a tidal wave of sorrow, besieged by an endless stream of unanswered questions. How could life be so cruel, stealing away the one person who had truly understood and accepted all parts of me? In the aftermath of his sudden loss, I found myself grappling with an overwhelming desire to withdraw from the world and hide away in the solitude of my bedroom. However, time, much like the inevitability of death, shows no mercy and waits for no one. Thus, we began the sorrowful process of organizing Andrew's funeral. As the days slowly passed, I discovered solace in the compassionate support of friends and family. Together, we navigated the heart-wrenching farewell to Andrew, ensuring his exit from this world was handled with the dignity he deserved. We organized a touching funeral service at our home, where we gathered to honor his memory and share stories that evoked both tears and laughter. Amid the poignant atmosphere, with the fragrance of freshly cut flowers filling the air, an unexpected doorbell chime broke through the soft hum of conversations. Curiosity and a mix of emotions stirred within me as I approached the door, my heart fluttering with anticipation and uncertainty. There, amidst a sea of mourners in black, stood Evelyn, Andrew's estranged mother. Clutching a bottle of whiskey as a peace offering, she seemed as out of place as she was desperate for reconciliation. A tumult of feelings surged through me, anger, resentment, and confusion clashing with grief, and an aching need for closure. Yet, as I looked into Evelyn's tear-stained eyes, a flicker of understanding sparked within me. Despite the pain she had inflicted, it was evident she was also struggling with her regrets and the heavy burden of time lost. Without a word, I opened my arms and Evelyn stepped forward. We embraced tightly, tears mingling as each drop seemed to carry the weight of unspoken sorrows. In that moment of connection, years of bitterness and fractured relationships began to dissolve in the warmth of our shared grief. Evelyn's hushed confessions of regret washed over me, and though the wounds were far from healed, I discovered a newfound glimmer of compassion in my heart. Her presence turned into a delicate dance of emotions among those gathered. My friends and family, fully aware of the tumultuous history between Andrew and his mother, greeted her with cautious smiles and offered her a place at our table. It was a profound testament to their steadfast support for me, showing that they could set aside their reservations to welcome Evelyn into our circle. Throughout the gathering, she shared stories of her struggles with addiction, painting a poignant picture of a woman lost yet desperate for redemption and forgiveness. This gathering, fraught with complex emotions, turned into an unexpected step towards healing, not just for me, but perhaps for Evelyn as well. Evelyn's voice trembled with emotion as she expressed her profound regret for the pain she had inflicted upon Andrew, reflecting on moments of remorse and a yearning to rewrite their shared past. As I listened to her, I could feel my heart gradually soften, recognizing that beneath the layers of hurt and disappointment, there still flickered a mother's love. Tarnished, certainly, but not extinguished. It was like observing a complex tapestry of emotions, intricately woven with threads of forgiveness, understanding, and a deep longing for healing. As Evelyn continued, she recounted fragments of memories with Andrew, sharing tender snapshots from his childhood, their shared laughter, and fleeting glimpses of the man he had eventually become. Each word she spoke was tinged with nostalgia and regret, painting an intimate portrait of the son she felt she had lost along the way. As the funeral service wound down and the guests began to leave, Evelyn, with a look of quiet determination, stayed behind. My sisters and I began to tidy up, quietly grateful for Evelyn's unexpected help in clearing the remnants of the day. In a quiet, vulnerable moment, Evelyn turned to me, her voice quivering with a mix of trepidation and hope, and asked if she could make a personal request. I met her gaze, my own filled with a blend of curiosity and caution, yet open to hearing her out. "Evelyn, what is it you'd like to ask?" I encouraged her gently, noting the gratitude and vulnerability in her eyes. Taking a deep breath, she said, "Sarah, I know I have no right to ask this of you, but could I have a chance to say goodbye to my son? To be close to him, perhaps through his belongings?" I paused, considering the weight of her request. Sensing my hesitation, she hurriedly added, "I know it's an unusual ask, and you have every right to say no, but if I could just touch his clothes or smell his cologne, maybe, just maybe, I could feel connected to him again, even though he's gone." Despite the lingering pain and resentment, Evelyn's genuine remorse was evident, and I couldn't dismiss it. "Evelyn, I see how much you loved Andrew, and the regret in your eyes is clear. If this could bring you some comfort, then yes, you may go up to his room and spend time with his things. Take all the time you need," I responded softly. A wave of gratitude washed over Evelyn's features as she whispered, "Thank you, Sarah. Your kindness means more to me than you can imagine." As Evelyn made her way up the stairs, I reflected on the day's events. A day of mourning, of unexpected reconciliations, and perhaps a small step toward healing, not just for Evelyn, but for all of us touched by Andrew's life and legacy. As Evelyn made her way upstairs, a flurry of emotions swirled within me. Part of me hoped this gesture would offer her some closure, a chance to mend the shattered bond with her son. Yet, another part of me remained cautious, aware of the vulnerabilities this act could potentially expose. In the ensuing silence, my thoughts wandered, contemplating the delicate and intricate nature of human relationships. They are fragile, easily torn apart, yet remarkably resilient when mended through healing and forgiveness. At that moment, I chose to lean towards forgiveness and grace for Evelyn, though I would soon come to question this decision. About 25 minutes later, Evelyn reappeared from the bedroom. Her eyes were swollen and red, clear signs of the emotional deluge she had experienced alone. It seemed she had poured out an ocean's worth of grief and remorse in that solitary room. The stoic and guarded expression she typically wore had given way to one of raw vulnerability. Taking a deep breath to steady herself, Evelyn spoke with a trembling voice. "Thank you for allowing me this time with Andrew. I am truly grateful for your kindness and understanding." Her words resonated with genuine sincerity, stirring a twinge of sympathy within me. As Evelyn said her final goodbyes, a palpable sense of closure seemed to fill the room. The weight of the day's emotions lingered, a silent testament to the complex web of feelings we had all navigated. With heavy hearts, we watched as Evelyn departed from the house, leaving us to reflect on the day's events. As hours passed and the evening sun began to cast a warm golden glow through the windows, my sisters and I found solace in each other's company. We shared more memories and gentle laughter, reminiscing about Andrew and drawing strength from the bond of love that united us as a family. As the light outside deepened, exhaustion took hold, and one by one, my sisters left for their homes, seeking solace in restful slumber after the long, draining day. For the first time that day, I found myself alone in the quiet sanctuary of my room. Surrounded by the silence, my mind drifted back to Evelyn's earlier request for a private moment with Andrew's belongings. Now, with the room enveloped in stillness, I reflected on the emotional journey of the day, pondering the complexities of forgiveness and the paths we choose in the search for peace. Overwhelmed by a deep curiosity and a yearning to feel close to Andrew even in his absence, I found myself drawn to the tangible remnants of his life. With a gentle reverence, I began to sift through his belongings, each item a poignant testament to the man he was. I picked up his favorite watch, its rhythmic ticking serving as a soft reminder of the precious moments we had shared together. My fingers traced the contours of his well-worn books, imagining the stories that had once whispered to him in the quiet of the evening. Turning to the dresser, I inspected the items salvaged from the car wreck: his phone, his work bag, his second watch, and his wallet. But a sinking feeling overtook me as I realized the wallet was missing. Panic surged through me, and desperation took hold as I frantically searched the room. I tore through every drawer and scrutinized every corner, but the wallet seemed to have vanished into thin air. The sudden realization that the wallet, retrieved from the wreckage, was now missing struck me with overwhelming force. In my distress, I knew I needed assistance to navigate this unsettling mystery. Perhaps I was mistaken, and the wallet had never been returned to my possession. With trembling hands, I called Gary, a dear friend who had been present at the funeral and had played a crucial role in retrieving Andrew's belongings. As a trusted member of the police department, Gary possessed the skills and dedication needed to help uncover the truth. As the phone rang, my heart pounded and tears streamed down my face. Gary's voice, calm and reassuring, answered on the other end. I poured out my anguish, explaining the circumstances and the urgency of the situation. With a heavy sigh, Gary confirmed that he had indeed brought back Andrew's wallet along with the other items. Relief mixed with confusion washed over me. If Gary had returned the wallet, then where could it have gone? Then a chilling realization struck me like a bolt of lightning, illuminating the dark corners of my mind. It could only have been Evelyn, my estranged and manipulative mother-in-law, who had seized the opportunity to snatch the wallet from the dresser. While immersed in my grief and unaware of any ulterior motives, I took a deep breath and shared my suspicions with Gary, my voice shaking with a blend of anger, sadness, and disbelief. Understanding the gravity of the situation, Gary reassured me with determination. Andrew was one of my best friends, and I promise you, if Evelyn had anything to do with this, we'll uncover the truth and ensure she faces the consequences. His words wrapped around me like a warm embrace, sparking a flicker of hope within me. Despite the shadows that loomed and the uncertainty that clouded my path, I felt a renewed sense of resolve knowing Gary was by my side. Together, we were determined to delve into the murky depths of this twisted tale, uncover Evelyn's motives, and bring closure to this painful chapter of our lives. As the days passed, the weight of grief still pressing heavily upon me, I was jolted by yet another disturbing revelation. A steady stream of bank statements sent to both my and Andrew's phones revealed a troubling pattern of transactions. It began with smaller amounts, a charge of $600 followed by one of $1,000. However, these quickly escalated into a torrential downpour of deductions, with sums exceeding $5,000 draining from Andrew's hard-earned savings. Fear and concern gripped my heart as I witnessed the relentless siphoning of his funds. It felt like a violation, a desecration of his memory that cut me to the core. With a heavy heart, I reached out to Gary once again, seeking his guidance and solace in the face of this new ordeal. Gary's voice, filled with empathy and resolve, advised me to take swift action. "You need to get Andrew's cards deactivated immediately to stop these unauthorized transactions," he said. His advice was practical and urgent, but following it meant facing harsh realities. Canceling credit and debit cards, terminating TV, movie, and music subscriptions, and severing financial ties. Each action served as a stark reminder that Andrew was truly gone. Yet, as the anger grew within me, fueled by Evelyn's audacious actions, a rebellious thought took root. How dare she squander my late husband's money with such reckless abandon? No, I resolved not to succumb to her wicked game so easily. I was determined to confront this challenge head-on, to protect Andrew's legacy, and to stand firm against the exploitation of his memory. As I grappled with the ongoing disruption Evelyn brought into our lives, a cunning plan began to take shape in the recesses of my mind. I decided to let Evelyn continue using the cards, giving her the illusion of security while I secretly held the upper hand, ready to expose her deceit and reclaim what was rightfully Andrew's. This decision wasn't made lightly, for it meant facing the painful reality of his absence a bit longer, but my resolve was firm. I was determined to unveil Evelyn's true character and shed light on her dark deeds. I planned to meticulously document every transaction Evelyn made, effectively tracking her every move until the perfect moment for confrontation. It was a delicate game of cat and mouse, allowing her to revel in her perceived control, while I prepared the stage for her inevitable downfall. As days morphed into weeks, I found myself caught in a whirlwind of emotions, oscillating between despair and determination. Drawing strength from the loving memories of Andrew, I steeled myself with the resolve to honor his memory by exposing Evelyn's actions and protecting his legacy from her greed and deceit. I knew that when I confronted her, it had to be memorable, a revelation she would never forget. As time passed, the weight of Evelyn's deceit grew increasingly unbearable. She continued to squander Andrew's hard-earned money with reckless abandon, her audacity seemingly limitless. Each transaction, each dollar she spent, was a stark reminder of her utter lack of remorse or empathy. My disdain for my estranged mother-in-law deepened with each day. How could she so callously betray her own son's memory? How could she treat his hard-earned legacy as nothing more than her personal slush fund, fueling her whims without a trace of guilt? Then, one fateful day as I opened the door, there stood Evelyn, a forced expression of remorse playing on her face. But I knew better than to fall for her facade. "Oh, hello, Sarah," she greeted tentatively. "Hello, Evelyn, can I come in?" she asked, hoping for an invitation. "No, you may not," I replied firmly, my voice steady and resolute. "I suspected as much. I don't blame you," she responded, her tone resigned, yet still tinged with deceit. I stood firm at the doorway, prepared to protect what remained of Andrew's world from her manipulations. I couldn't believe my ears as Evelyn stood before me, a forced expression of remorse on her face. I imagine you've noticed that Andrew's wallet is missing. I'm so sorry, Sarah. In my grief, I took it. I thought my time to say goodbye would be short, so I took the wallet as a keepsake. Really? I responded, barely concealing my disbelief. Yes, she admitted, her voice faltering slightly. It was wrong of me, but I've come to my senses and decided to return it to you. Anger surged within me, threatening to overpower my composure. How could she stand there weaving such shameless lies with such ease? Yet I masked my fury behind a serene smile, seeing an opportunity to reveal Evelyn's true nature. I handed her a document, a meticulously compiled record of every penny she had pilfered from Andrew, accompanied by a detailed list of the legal charges she would be facing. As she read, her hands shook and her eyes widened in disbelief. "What's this?" She stammered, her voice a mix of confusion and fear. "It's a record of all the money you've stolen from Andrew. It also outlines the legal consequences you're now facing," I explained, my voice steady and resolute. Evelyn's facade crumbled before my eyes. Her lies unraveled, and the weight of her guilt and deceit became too much for her. She collapsed on the front porch, overwhelmed and unconscious. Without hesitation, I called for an ambulance, ensuring she received the medical attention she needed. Later, as Evelyn regained consciousness in the sterile confines of a hospital room, her wrists secured with cold metal handcuffs, the reality of her actions began to dawn on her. She raged and demanded release, but I stood by, a calm and resolved presence. I assured her that she would not escape the consequences of her crimes and that she would face a significant prison sentence for the havoc she had wreaked upon Andrew's memory. With the unwavering support of Gary, my trusted friend-in-law enforcement, I had gathered enough evidence to ensure Evelyn faced the full extent of the law. We had calculated the likely amount of time she would spend behind bars, a fitting punishment for her despicable actions. Reflecting on the tumultuous journey that led to this point, I felt a mix of relief and sadness. While justice was being served, the path had been fraught with pain and betrayal. Yet through it all, I found a strength I never knew I had, fortified by the love and memories of Andrew that I was determined to honor. Finding solace in the fact that justice has been served brings a profound sense of peace to my heart. I have avenged Andrew's memory, shedding light on the depths of Evelyn's betrayal. The stolen money has been reclaimed, and Evelyn is now facing the consequences of her fraudulent actions. With this chapter closed, I feel a sense of contentment and closure that allows me to look forward to a future free from the shadows of Evelyn's deceit. Andrew's spirit can now rest, knowing his legacy has been safeguarded. I, too, can begin to find the peace I have so desperately sought. The journey that began with heartbreak and betrayal concludes with justice prevailing, a poignant reminder that no act of deceit will remain unchecked, and that the power of love and determination can triumph over even the darkest adversities. This resolution reinforces my belief in the strength of integrity and the importance of standing firm in the face of wrongdoing, ensuring that the truth always finds its way to light. Hello there. I'm Jennifer, just your typical straightforward person, but I've got quite a tale to tell. It's a story about heartbreak, resilience, and unexpected strength. A few years ago, life threw me a curveball I never expected. My husband Frank and I were living what seemed like the ideal life, a cozy suburban home, our dog Billy, and dreams of starting a family. Then, unexpectedly, our path took a sharp turn. I suffered a miscarriage, and it struck us hard, like a relentless punch that never eased. It shook our minds, hearts, and particularly our marriage. Suddenly, we found ourselves navigating through immense pain and confusion. Frank and I have always been a solid team, committed to staying strong together. However, this miscarriage cast a persistent shadow over us, touching every aspect of our relationship. Conversations often turned into arguments, simple joys were hard to share, and our closeness began to fade. To add to the strain, there was Betty, my mother-in-law, who had been eager for grandchildren since our wedding. The pressure from her felt like a ticking clock, adding stress to our already heavy hearts. Despite numerous doctor visits, treatments, and the emotional toll, my fertility issues persisted. The roller coaster of hope and despair with each pregnancy attempt was overwhelming. Every positive test ended in heartache, and the repeated losses were crushing. I remember the devastating conversations with Frank where hope and frustration poured out in our words. "It's not fair, Jennifer. We've tried so hard," Frank would say, his voice heavy with disappointment. "I know, Frank, I never wanted this," I'd respond, feeling the weight of our shared dreams crumbling. Life seemed to relentlessly challenge us, and the burden grew with each passing year. Friends and family offered support, but the journey of trying to have a baby remained daunting. It was a profound weight that constantly loomed over us, becoming heavier as time went on. Through all these trials, Frank and I learned about the depths of our strength and the resilience of our bond. The path wasn't easy, but it was ours, filled with lessons about love, hardship, and the complex journey of life. Our friends and family couldn't help but notice that Frank and I were still without children. Their well-meaning inquiries and comments about when we might have a little one often felt more like pressure than support. But Betty, Frank's mom, took it to another level entirely. Every family gathering with her turned into a relentless probe into our plans to start a family. She often seemed to point the finger at me, as if the absence of children was solely my fault, especially since I was dealing with fertility issues. However, her approach was far from tactful. "Oh, Jennifer, it's so nice to see you. How have you been?" Betty would start sweetly. "I've been good, Betty, thanks for asking," I'd respond, bracing myself for what was to come. "And any good news to share? About a little one on the way?" "Betty, we've talked about this. We're still trying, but it's not that simple," I'd reply, trying to keep my tone light. "Oh dear, are you sure you're doing everything right? You've been married for quite some time now. Maybe it's time to see a specialist." "Yes, Betty, we've seen specialists. We're doing everything we can. It's just not happening as easily as you might think." "Well, maybe you should try some natural remedies. I've heard herbal teas and certain positions can help. I really want a grandbaby. "This is a private matter, Betty. We're handling it the best we can," I'd insist, hoping to steer the conversation away. "Oh, please, Private Schmivat. We're family. We should be able to discuss these things openly." "I understand that, Betty, but let's just enjoy our time together today without discussing this, okay?" "All right, dear, but tick-tock, time is wasting and soon you won't be able to have kids." "I'll keep that in mind, Betty." It was always like this, trust me. I felt immense pressure and shame for not fulfilling her expectations of a perfect daughter-in-law who would provide her with grandchildren. Ironically, she never imposed such expectations on her daughter, who wasn't even married yet, and seemed to get a free pass. It was incredibly frustrating. This period in our lives was tremendously difficult. The pressure from Betty just kept building, and it felt like she was always holding my fertility struggles against me. I could see the strain it was putting on both Frank and me. I suggested adoption several times, but Frank was adamant about having a biological child, which led to heated arguments between us. The tension from these discussions and the constant external pressure made everything even more challenging. I expressed to Frank how painful and unfair it felt to make a distinction between biological and adopted children because, to me, all children deserved love equally. Yet, he remained fixated on having a biological child, a desire that weighed heavily on both our hearts. I couldn't help but think of the countless children out there longing for a family, a thought that deepened my sadness. As for Betty, her attitude escalated to being overtly harsh. She relentlessly blamed me for our inability to have children, as if my fertility issues were something I could simply resolve if I just tried harder. This created an unbearable situation where I was fighting to preserve my marriage while enduring constant judgment and reproach. It was a draining ordeal, emotionally overwhelming. Betty never hesitated to express her dissatisfaction directly. "Jennifer, you need to fix this and fast. You're the reason we don't have any grandchildren yet," she would confront me. "Betty, I've been trying everything I can. It's not as simple as you think. I'm dealing with fertility issues," I would respond, my patience thinning. "Well, you need to try harder. We can't have our family line end with you," she retorted. Her fixation seemed almost dystopian, as if she expected me to fulfill some sort of Handmaid's Tale scenario. Overwhelmed, I decided to seek some insight from my sister-in-law, Amy, who always seemed more empathetic. "Amy, I don't understand why your mom is so fixated on me having a baby. It's not entirely under my control, and she's making my life miserable," I confided. "Jennifer, it's not just about grandkids." Amy hesitated, hinting at more to the story. After some coaxing, she revealed more troubling thoughts. "I overheard her talking to some family friends. Mom's worried that Frank might leave you for someone younger, someone who can have kids." "What? Frank would never do that. Why would you even think that?" I was shocked. "I know you believe that, but remember, Frank was quite the ladies' man before. I didn't want to say anything. After all, he's my brother, and I'm loyal to him. You're lucky I'm even sharing this with you." "Honestly, I think Mom might have a point," Amy admitted reluctantly. "Yeah, Jennifer, time is ticking," she added, echoing the harsh reality that seemed to hover around us. This revelation shook me deeply, intertwining my marital uncertainties with the invasive pressures from Betty, adding layers of complexity to an already strained relationship. Hearing about Frank potentially leaving me for someone younger left me staggered. Amy hinted at a younger coworker, an intern about 25 years old with whom Frank seemed to enjoy chatting a bit too much. The thought that my husband could even contemplate leaving me, let alone engage with other women behind my back, was shattering. My heart felt like it was being torn apart by this potential betrayal. After grappling with my suspicions and the agony they caused, I reached a breaking point. The distance between Frank and me had become an unbridgeable chasm, and I knew it was time for a confrontation. One evening, Frank sensed my withdrawal and standoffishness and asked me about it. Overwhelmed by pain and frustration, I confronted him directly about his fidelity. Initially, Frank denied everything, as anyone might in such a shocking scenario. But as the conversation stretched on, he eventually confessed to his indiscretions. The revelation of his affair with a younger coworker unleashed a torrent of emotions in me. In a moment of intense anger and hurt, I slapped him, the act a stark reflection of the pain he had inflicted. Frank's reaction was predictably mixed with pleas and request for forgiveness, but I could see right through it. Over the years, I had built a stable and prosperous life for myself, making wise financial decisions and advancing in my career. It dawned on me that Frank might have been holding on to our failing marriage not just because of love or the desire for a child, but perhaps also with an eye on securing a financial safety net through potential child support payments in the event of a divorce. Feeling manipulated and used, I declared that I wanted a divorce. I was exhausted by the deceit and the emotional turmoil. "How could you, Frank? How could you betray me like this?" I demanded. "Jennifer, please, just listen. I messed up. I know I did. I'm so sorry," he pleaded, his voice desperate. "Sorry doesn't cut it, Frank. You cheated on me with someone from your office," I shot back, my voice trembling with rage. "Jennifer, you have to understand, I was feeling so inadequate, so unfulfilled. I thought having a child would make me feel completely like I was worth something," he tried to explain. "Oh, so you thought cheating on your wife was the solution? Did you think that sleeping with someone else would magically make you a better person?" I countered, disbelief and scorn lacing my words. At that moment, the truth of our situation became painfully clear. Frank's betrayal wasn't just a lapse in judgment. It was a deliberate choice that shattered the trust and foundation of our marriage. No, of course not. I was foolish to think that way. I didn't know what else to do, Frank stammered, his desperation evident. You didn't know what to do, so you chose to hurt me instead? Do you even realize the pain you've caused? I demanded, my voice tinged with disbelief and hurt. Jennifer, I can't lose you. Please let me make this right. I'll do anything, he pleaded, his voice cracking with emotion. Do you really think you can undo this with a few hollow promises? You need to mature, Frank, and take responsibility for your actions, I replied sternly, my resolve firming. As I sat in the lawyer's office signing the final divorce papers, a profound sense of relief swept through me. The burden of a broken marriage and the sting of Frank's betrayal was finally lifting. I could breathe freely again, despite attempts by Betty and Amy to make me reconsider. Their attempts couldn't mask the deceit they too had harbored. I knew what was right for me, and staying with a man who had been unfaithful was no longer an option. With the prenuptial agreement in place, the divorce proceedings were swift. I retained the house, a sanctuary where I could start anew. Frank, on the other hand, had to move back in with his mother, a situation he found less than ideal. On the day the divorce was finalized, I left the lawyer's office feeling liberated from a toxic relationship. However, as I drove home, a sudden wave of nausea overwhelmed me. I quickly pulled over, stumbled out of the car, and barely made it to the roadside before I threw up. The twisting in my stomach at first seemed like the emotional toll of the divorce catching up to me. But as the nausea persisted over the following days, I began to suspect there might be more to it. The very next day, I was jolted awake by an incessant ringing of my doorbell. To my dismay, it was Frank, Betty, and Amy causing a commotion outside. They barged into my home uninvited, shouting about the prenuptial agreement and how it was unfair to leave Frank with so little, considering my financial status. Betty wasted no time in cutting to the chase. Jennifer, we're here to collect some money as compensation for all the years Frank wasted with you, she declared brazenly. Have you lost your mind? Don't you realize the divorce is finalized? I retorted, incredulous at their audacity and the absurdity of their demands. Their presence in my home, making such outrageous claims, was the last thing I needed after everything that had transpired. I don't owe him anything. Sure, I guess, but this sounds like some sort of side deal, right? Frank argued, trying to justify his demand. A side deal, yes, he insisted. Jennifer, you've put me through a lot and I need compensation. You're lucky we aren't taking this to court. Amy nodded in agreement beside him. Yeah, he's been through so much stress because of you. We think $150,000 should cover it. I was stunned by their audacity. A fire ignited within me as I faced them, my voice quivering with a mixture of anger and disbelief. Are you kidding me? Do you think you deserve compensation for the years I spent trying to make our marriage work? If anything, I'm the one who deserves compensation, I exclaimed. I knew Frank was practically broke and there was no way he could pay me anything. Yet here they were, attempting to bully me into giving them money. I refused to be intimidated. With renewed resolve, I declared, the whole point of a prenup is to protect my assets. You need to leave my house immediately. But I paused, a plan forming in my mind to truly shock them. Wait just one moment before I do. I need to show you something. I hurried upstairs, my heart pounding in anticipation. When I returned, I held a pregnancy test in my trembling hand. Their eyes widened with shock and disbelief as they saw the positive result. As they passed the test around, I explained, I threw up last night and decided to take the test on a whim. The result was unexpected, to say the least. Later that day, I had a hospital appointment to determine how far along I was in the pregnancy. Frank, Betty, and Amy stood there, jaws practically on the floor, unable to comprehend the twist of fate that had just unfolded before them. You know what, Betty Amy? Karma is a real piece of work, and I guess the universe decided it was time to bless me. I'm having a baby, but I'm no longer tied to any of you. The baby might be Frank's, but this baby is going to be all mine, I declared firmly. Betty and Amy exchanged worried Betty before Betty spoke up. Jennifer, let's not be too hasty here. We could work something out and discuss an arrangement. Frank, finally finding his voice, mumbled incoherent apologies, his eyes brimming with regret. But I wasn't having any of it. I'd had enough of their manipulation and toxicity. No more arrangements, no more excuses. Get off my property, all of you, before I call the police. I'm done with this toxic circus, I stated resolutely, my decision firm. Betty and Amy exchanged worried Betty as I stood my ground. I could sense their desperation to change my mind, but after years of enduring their emotional pressure, I was unwavering. I had constructed an emotional barrier that was not easily breached. In our tense standoff, Betty broke the silence, her voice tinged with desperation. Jennifer, you have to understand that we care about this family. We want what's best for you and the baby. Frank may have made mistakes that you knew about, by the way, but that's not important right now. He's the father, and he has a right to be in his baby's life. Yeah, Jennifer, you know how long we've been waiting for this. We can make this work, trust me, she continued, trying to persuade me. I sighed, struggling to keep my composure. I understand your concern, but what you fail to grasp is that Frank's actions caused this rift in our marriage. He cheated on me, Betty. You're a smart woman. I'm sure you don't even believe what you're saying. You three are just trying to get into my life to get access to my money. That's ridiculous. Yes, I agree. You're taking these things too far. Frank finally chimed in, his voice shaky. Jennifer, I messed up big time. I regret what I did, and I'm willing to make amends for the sake of our child. Can't we try to work this out? I looked at him, my eyes filled with a mix of anger and sadness. Frank, this isn't just about your infidelity. It's about years of emotional manipulation and pressure from your mother and sister. I've endured so much because of your family, and I can't go back to that toxic environment. Amy tried a different approach, her voice softer, trying to sound conciliatory. Jennifer, we admit we made mistakes too. We were too pushy, and we're sorry for that. But we only wanted what was best for you, even if we went about it the wrong way. Please, for the sake of the family, reconsider. But I wasn't swayed. Sure, Amy, but it doesn't change what happened. I've made my decision. I want a fresh start for myself and my child, away from the constant pressure and guilt trips, so thanks, but no thanks. Betty, clearly frustrated, raised her voice. You're being unreasonable, Jennifer. You can't just cut us out like this. I took a deep breath, my patience wearing thin. I can, and I will. My priority now is the well-being of my child, I asserted firmly. Their attempts at reconciliation felt shallow, and their motives were transparent. In that moment, I knew I needed to stand strong, not just for myself, but for the future of my child, free from the turmoil and the strings attached by Frank and his family. I had decided not to expose my child to such a toxic environment. You all need to leave, I stated, my voice resolute. Amy's eyes welled up as her voice shook. Jennifer, please don't do this. We love you, and we want to be the part of your life and the baby's life. As I've mentioned, you can have a relationship with the baby, but I will not compromise my happiness and mental health for anyone. Please, I don't want to have to repeat myself, I asserted, trying to maintain my calm. Frank, who had been quietly weeping throughout the conversation, finally spoke up, his voice cracking with emotion. Jennifer, please reconsider. I'll do whatever it takes to make things right. I'm sorry about those girls. They meant nothing. I looked at him, feeling a pang for the man I once loved. Frank, it's too late for us. but you can still be a good father to our child. Just remember that actions speak louder than words." With that, I turned and walked away, locking my door behind them. Betty, Amy, and Frank were left standing there, their faces a mix of sadness and regret. It was time to start a new chapter in my life, one where I could breathe freely without the weight of their expectations and demands. Life had indeed taken a turn for the better. I had my beautiful baby girl, who became the center of my universe. She was healthy, thriving, and a source of immeasurable joy in my life. Each day spent with her filled my heart with love and gratitude. I had decided to allow supervised visits with Frank, Betty, and Amy, as I believed that my daughter deserved to know her father and have a connection with her paternal family. However, I had set clear boundaries, and I expected those boundaries to be respected. Yet, every visit seemed to be accompanied by the same chorus of pleas and accusations. They insisted that I was being selfish for not reuniting with Frank. The pressure and guilt-tripping were relentless, and it began to wear on my patience. One day, during yet another supervised visit, the familiar arguments began. Betty and Amy launched into their usual tirade about how I was tearing the family apart. They claimed that I was depriving my daughter of a complete family and that she deserved to have her parents together. I had had enough. After gently placing my baby girl in her crib, I turned to face them, my voice firm yet weary. "I've been patient," I began, ready to reassert my boundaries and stand up for the peaceful life I had fought so hard to create for my daughter and myself. I've strived to maintain a civil relationship for the sake of our child, but the constant badgering and shouting are simply unacceptable. When Frank attempted to intervene, saying, "Jennifer, please, can't we talk about this?" I firmly shook my head. "No, Frank, this isn't up for debate. I've made my decision and it's final. I won't tolerate this environment for our daughter," I declared, my resolve clear. Betty and Amy exchanged frustrated Betty but continued to argue, accusing me of being rigid and unreasonable. Taking a deep breath, I addressed them sternly. "This is your last warning. If you can't respect my boundaries and continue to pressure me, you won't be allowed to see her anymore. I won't expose her to this toxic behavior." Frank, realizing the gravity of the situation, finally stepped in. "Mom, Amy, please, we need to respect Jennifer's wishes. Our daughter deserves a peaceful and loving environment," he pleaded. Betty and Amy fell silent, their faces a mix of disappointment and resignation. It seemed they finally understood that their constant interference was only pushing them further away from their granddaughter. From that day forward, our visits became more peaceful. They still harbored hopes for a reunion between Frank and me, but they no longer pressed the issue during our visits. Though I could tell they were still remorseful, my focus remained elsewhere. I had more important things to prioritize, like the well-being and happiness of my daughter, who continued to thrive. She was surrounded by love from people who genuinely cared about her well-being and mine. The change in the dynamics allowed us to foster a calmer, more nurturing environment, one that was free from the previous tensions and conducive to her growth and happiness. Greetings, I'm Deanna, and I hope this message finds you well and happy. I'm currently in a joyous phase of my life, having overcome some challenging times. My mental health has significantly improved, and my relationship with my husband, Terry, is stronger than ever. With Terry's encouragement, since he finds such tales amusing and thought it'd be great for me to share mine, I wanted to open up to you all about our journey together. It all started right after I graduated from college and landed a fantastic job. Terry was already working there and soon became not only a colleague but a friend. He was more experienced and took the time to mentor me, which helped me a lot professionally. A year after I joined, Terry accepted a better position at another company. Although I was sad to see him leave, he surprised me by asking me out shortly after his move. I was ecstatic. However, Terry had a caveat. He confessed that he had hesitated to ask me out earlier because he had a major crush on me during our time as co-workers, but didn't act on it due to his circumstances. It wasn't the company's HR policies that deterred him. He was more concerned about his past experiences with relationships, specifically his mother, who had a history of interfering in his and his brother Mason's relationships, often to their detriment. Terry explained that he wanted to be sure of his feelings before potentially involving me in this complex family dynamic. At first, I didn't take his warnings about his mother too seriously. I grew up in a nurturing environment where I was taught to see the best in people. However, meeting his family was an eye-opener. Sarah, his mother, was openly hostile towards me, while his father, Bradley, and his brother, Mason, were warm and welcoming. I'm sharing this story to show that despite the tough beginnings and the challenges posed by external factors, with love, patience, and a bit of humor, relationships can thrive. Terry's support has been unwavering, and together, we've navigated through these complexities to build a strong and happy life. Thank you for letting me share this with you. But dealing with Sarah was a whole different story. She confronted me with harsh words saying, "Now that you're dating my son, don't think you've reached the pinnacle of success. Terry has his priorities straight. His family and I come first." I respect that, Sarah, and I would never demand more attention from him than he can give, I replied, trying to keep the peace. Oh, please. I've dealt with many women like you. Have you ever asked Terry how I saved him from his exes? I've made Mason's terrible exes disappear too. It wouldn't take me a second to do the same with you, she retorted sharply. Sarah's outburst was shocking, but before I could respond, Bradley stepped in. Sarah, what's wrong with you? You can't talk to Diana like that. She loves our son and he loves her. You should show her some respect. Mom, boasting about breaking up our past relationships isn't something to be proud of. You know what you did wasn't right. Besides, you can't just speak to Diana like that. She's a wonderful person and doesn't deserve your hostility, Terry added, defending me. Sarah snapped back. I can see Diana is already filling your head with ideas. Don't let her pull you away from your mother. And you, Terry and Mason, should be grateful I drove away the wrong people from your lives. No one can be as important as me. Her words left me stunned. Despite Terry, Bradley, and Mason's attempts to moderate her tirade, nothing seemed to hold her back. When she finally took a break and retreated to the kitchen, Bradley and Mason both apologized profusely on her behalf. I'm so sorry, Diana. Sarah has always been like this, and I truly have no idea how to rein her in. She has been incredibly rude to you, and I hate that she treats you this way, Bradley lamented. Bradley, you don't have to apologize for her. None of this is your fault or Mason's. Both of you have been incredibly kind to me, and that means a lot, I reassured them. Mason then cautioned me, Diana, don't underestimate our mom. She can be harsh. We've had many such experiences in the past. We all like you and don't want you to break up with Terry. Just keep in mind not to let Sarah win, no matter what she does. His and Bradley's words were a reminder of the family dynamics I was stepping into. Over time, Sarah tried everything to break Terry and me apart, including branding me as a fortune hunter. Thankfully, Terry and I were well aware of her tactics, which made it easier for us to stand strong together and keep our relationship intact against her divisive efforts. Sarah frequently criticized my appearance, my job, and even my weight. Terry and I attempted to address these issues with her, but Sarah never acknowledged her wrongdoing. Each time we confronted her, she accused me of trying to insult and embarrass her, claiming she was only trying to protect her son. Diana, you're just jealous of me, she would retort. I'm not jealous of you, Sarah. How could I be jealous of Terry's mother? That's absurd. You're just trying to dodge your role in attempting to sabotage our relationship, I replied, frustrated by her baseless accusations. Sarah continued, unrelenting, "I'm doing this to protect my son. He needs to see what a terrible fortune hunter you are. I'm pretty sure you're seeing multiple people and are only using Terry for his money. You're not even attractive. I won't let a loser like you ruin my son." "Mom, that's too much," Terry intervened. "Everything you're saying is false. I'm tired of hearing you insult Diana. She's a good person and I love her. Please don't do this to us." However, Sarah's behavior only worsened over time. She started to call Terry daily as a way to mock our relationship and constantly filled his head with negative things about me. Occasionally, when Terry and I argued, he initially sided with his mother, but he always came to realize his mistake and apologized. This pattern was one of the key reasons I still chose to marry him. Although Sarah was extremely displeased with our marriage, the rest of the in-laws were thrilled. Surprisingly, getting married only made Sarah more antagonistic. I believe she was shocked that I stayed with Terry despite her efforts. She continued to harass both of us over the years, although she maintained regular contact with Terry, claiming she missed him. This didn't bother me much, as she gradually became less dramatic and somewhat civil during family gatherings. It turns out that Bradley had a serious talk with Sarah, even threatening to leave her if she didn't alter her behavior. This seemed to have made an impact, and I enjoyed a period of relative peace until Terry and I hit a difficult phase. We were devastated by an unexpected miscarriage, and the tragedy strained our communication. We fought frequently and even discussed divorce, as Terry struggled to cope with the situation. However, after a few days of reflection, Terry came to a realization. Terry approached me with remorse in his eyes. "I'm so sorry for being distant, Diana. I should have been more supportive. You were hurting, and I acted poorly." "It's okay, Terry. I know you were hurting too. It just broke my heart when you mentioned divorce. I had never considered it before, and hearing you say it hurt me deeply," I responded, feeling the weight of our strained relationship. "I can't tell you how sorry I am. I know this doesn't excuse my behavior, but I need to be honest. I wasn't the one who brought up divorce first. It was actually my mom who kept pushing for it," Terry confessed. His admission made me uneasy. "Diana, there's something else I need to tell you. Is Sarah trying to ruin our marriage again?" "You're right, Diana. She has been calling me daily, filling my head with negativity about you. I was vulnerable and couldn't see her true intentions, but now it's clear she was trying to manipulate me again," Terry revealed, his voice filled with frustration. He hesitated, then offered, "I've recorded the calls. Do you want to listen?" Curious and a bit apprehensive, I decided to listen to what Sarah had been saying. The recordings were shocking. She berated me for the miscarriage and suggested to Terry that he should divorce me. Instead of supporting her son, she attacked his vulnerabilities, trying to push him toward a decision that would end our marriage. I was furious after hearing the recordings, and Terry looked equally disturbed. "What my mom said is absolutely unforgivable. I don't even know if I can forgive myself for not seeing through her sooner, but I am willing to cut contact with her for good," Terry declared firmly. "I agree, Terry. I tolerated her because she was family, but this time she went too far. I can't forgive her for this," I stated resolutely. "We don't need to see or talk to her again. I don't want her around either. I'll go and tell her she's not part of our lives anymore. But I don't think that's enough," I continued, thinking about how Sarah had misled other family members. She convinced Bradley and Mason that she had changed. I want to expose her true nature to them. I'll show them the recordings at our next family dinner. This decision felt right. It was time for everyone to see the real Sarah and to protect our marriage from further damage. We needed to stand united and clear about our boundaries, especially with family. Determined to reveal Sarah's true character, Terry and I crafted a plan to expose her manipulations. He continued to engage in conversations with her, recording each one as she relentlessly disparaged me. Each call was a fresh wave of vitriol, targeting our marriage's vulnerabilities. It was painful to hear her calculated attacks, knowing how she aimed to tear us apart. Terry, although distressed, defended me against her onslaughts, but his efforts seemed to barely scratch the surface of her resolve to see our marriage fail. The day to unveil Sarah's manipulations finally came. We painstakingly compiled the most damning parts of her recorded conversations into a cohesive audio montage. Before setting out to his parents' house, I checked with Terry once more to confirm his resolve. His determination matched mine. This time, Sarah was going to face the consequences. We kept our plan secret until we arrived at the family dinner. From the moment we entered, Sarah began her usual routine, hurling hurtful remarks about my life and making everyone visibly uncomfortable. Despite the sting of her words, I endured, knowing the revelation that awaited. Dinner passed in an uneasy silence, punctuated by Sarah's snide comments aimed at undermining me in front of everyone. Bradley tried his best to intervene, but his efforts did little to deter her. As the meal concluded and the table was cleared, I knew it was time to shift the evening's focus. With everyone gathered, I began, "Now that we've finished dinner, there's something important I need to discuss with all of you." Sarah scoffed, interrupting me. "You don't need to hype this up, Diana. We all know your talks are pointless. Just say what you want and stop wasting our time." Bradley, however, supported me. "Let her speak, Sarah. You're being incredibly rude. This is not how we treat family." With the room's attention and with Bradley's encouragement, I felt empowered to proceed. It was time to unveil the truth about Sarah's relentless attempts to sabotage not just my relationship with Terry, but the peace of our family. I prepared to play the recordings, ready to expose the reality of Sarah's destructive influence once and for all. "Why so impatient, Sarah? You took your time talking to Terry about me, didn't you?" "Don't worry, I won't take months to finish my talk. It'll just be a few minutes," I said, gathering my resolve in the face of Sarah's evident frustration. "Go ahead, Diana, we're all listening," encouraged Bradley, clearly interested in what I had to say. "Well, I've encountered some very disturbing issues that I believe we all need to be aware of and discuss together. But before we start, I'd like to play a few recordings," I explained, my voice steady despite the tension. With Terry's approving nod, I took a deep breath to steady myself. Sarah had a knack for unsettling me, but I was determined to remain composed. Recalling all the hurtful things she had said about me, I pressed the play button on my phone, letting the recordings fill the room. Silence fell after the recordings ended. Bradley and Mason looked shocked, while Sarah seemed furiously indignant. Her reaction was unexpected. I thought she might appear scared or even remorseful, but she was visibly angry. Glancing at Terry, I saw confusion mirrored in his expression. Neither of us had anticipated her reaction. Before anyone else could respond, Sarah erupted. "This is ridiculous. Why the hell did you play my private conversations for everyone? Diana, you had no right to snoop on what I discussed with my son. You're a shameless girl. I can't believe your audacity." "Don't worry about that, Sarah. Terry approved it before I showed everyone. He's the one who helped make these recordings," I replied calmly, countering her outrage with the truth. "There's no way my son would betray me like that. You're just jealous of the close relationship I have with Terry, trying to poison us against each other," Sarah accused wildly. "Terry, I'm so sorry your wife violated our privacy like this," she continued, turning to her son with a plea. "Mom, she had my permission to share these recordings with everyone. I'm sorry to say this, but I'm done with you," Terry interjected firmly, standing by my side. "I truly never realized just how much you were trying to destroy my marriage." "How can you say that about me? I have done nothing wrong. I was simply talking to my son." Sarah defended herself, her tone desperate. "Is that so, Sarah? Do these recordings sound like normal conversations to you?" Terry questioned. challenging her denial with the evidence that had just been laid bare for all to hear. "No one here could believe you weren't trying to break us up, Sarah. You've been trying to isolate Terry and take him away from me," I said, laying bare her intentions to everyone in the room. "See, everyone, I always knew Diana would destroy our family," Sarah shot back. A tense silence followed her accusation. I could see the frustration etched on Terry, Bradley, and even Mason's faces. Their anger was almost palpable. Sarah, meanwhile, looked annoyed but tried to appear shocked by my words. Then Terry confronted his mother directly, his voice firm and resolute. "You dare to accuse Diana of destroying our family? You're the one who has been trying to destroy my marriage, Mom. You've been actively working against your own son's happiness. You guys have to believe me. I only had good intentions. Diana is putting ideas into your head." Sarah defended herself weakly. "I can't believe you're turning this around on Diana because she exposed you, Mom. You told me I should divorce my wife and move back home. How can you claim you had good intentions?" Terry retorted. "Sarah, I was only looking out for you. I didn't want you to be unhappy. I know Diana is a terrible wife and your marriage is ruined," she persisted, unwilling to back down. "Mom, I told you I'm perfectly happy in my marriage. How dare you say Diana is a bad wife? If anyone is trying to ruin my marriage, it's you," Terry countered, his frustration growing. "I'm done with you, Mom. I don't want you anywhere near me or my wife. We have gone through enough already. Leave us alone," Terry declared, drawing a line. Hearing this, Sarah burst into tears, unable to believe that her son would stand up to her in such a way to protect me. She pleaded with Terry to listen and understand her reasons, but in her distress, she continued ranting about how terrible I was and insisting she had been right all along. That's when Bradley, my father-in-law, finally intervened. "Enough is enough, Sarah. I have tolerated your insane jealousy towards Diana for too long. It was my mistake not to address it sooner. You need to apologize to Diana and stay out of Terry's life." "What are you saying, Bradley? I will not apologize to that monster, Diana. How can you ask me to apologize? She's trying to ruin my family," Sarah protested vehemently. "You are the one trying to ruin this family, Sarah. For years you have meddled in and messed up your son's relationships. You are responsible for the numerous breakups and the distress in Terry's life. It's time you recognize that," Bradley countered firmly, finally taking a stand against her destructive behavior. The revelation of Sarah's actions had a profound impact on the family, especially on Mason. "I always hoped you would change, but you never did," he said to his mother, his voice filled with disappointment. "Dad is right, Mom. You can't deny that you've chased away every girl Terry and I brought home. We trusted you because you're our mother, but now it's clear you just wanted to control us. How can you be so cruel to your sons?" "There's no use talking to Mom about this," Mason continued, addressing his brother. "I've already tried to stop her and change her ways, but she never listened." Amid the heated discussion, Sarah, feeling cornered, lashed out, "You are all blaming me for what Diana did. I will never forgive you for this. Diana, I can see why God made you infertile. It's His way of punishing you." Her harsh words stunned everyone in the room. The cruelty of her tirade was shocking, and as she broke down crying, trying to play the victim, the atmosphere thickened with tension. Terry looked like he was on the edge, ready to explode, while Mason exchanged a significant look with his father. In a moment of quiet authority, Bradley stood and made his decision known. "That's it, Sarah. That was the last straw. I cannot be with someone so vile and disgusting. I've failed to protect my sons from your toxicity, but I will not tolerate it any longer. I will file for separation. I'm done with you as well." "You are dead to me, Mom," Mason added, his voice firm. "Like Terry, I don't want you near me either. You've tried to poison me against my girlfriend, but now that I've seen how far you can go, I'll protect myself and my future fiancé. Stay away from us." Driven to a frenzy by the confrontation, Sarah became enraged. She started screaming and hurling insults, completely losing control. In her rage, she pushed me into the kitchen cabinet, causing physical pain. At that point, Bradley took decisive action and called the police. Mason and Terry restrained Sarah, holding her back as she continued to scream and lash out until the police arrived and took her away in handcuffs. The aftermath of the ordeal was tough for all of us. In the following months, Terry, Mason, Bradley, and I had to navigate the emotional fallout. Initially wanting only a separation, Bradley ultimately filed for divorce. Sarah's behavior worsened in jail. She became increasingly desperate, crying and begging to see her husband and sons. The family was left to rebuild and heal from the deep wounds Sarah had inflicted. Sarah remained unapologetic about her actions. So, bolstered by everyone's support, I decided to press charges against her. According to our lawyer, it looks like she's facing a significant period in prison starting next month. No one is stepping forward to post bail for her, so she will remain in jail until her trial. In the meantime, the rest of us have taken legal steps to ensure our safety. Both Terry and Mason, concerned for the well-being of their partners, secured restraining orders against Sarah. This was a necessary measure to protect us from any potential harm she might cause in the future. Bradley is also moving forward with his divorce from Sarah. His lawyer has assured him that the process will be expedited, given the circumstances. Fortunately, Sarah cannot claim any alimony due to a post-nuptial agreement they signed years ago. It turns out Bradley had doubts about their marriage early on, which led them to arrange this postnup. This agreement stipulates that Sarah will receive no financial support from Bradley and will need to find employment once she is released from jail. This situation has been heart-wrenching for Bradley, who has spent most of his life with Sarah. It's a difficult transition, seeing someone he was so close to become someone he needed to protect himself from. We are all rallying around him, offering our support as he navigates this painful time. Together, we are recovering and rebuilding from the turmoil Sarah caused, striving to move past the upheaval and find peace again.